3, 2, 1, end of test. Keying with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. We're wrapping up our 6th episode of our trip to Edwards Air Force Base. Yes, Greg actually got out of the house, which is amazing. He is housebroken, and we took him to the Edwards Air Force Base Test Pilot School. Stay tuned to this video for really cool stuff. So here today, I am with a Space Force person. We've been having a lot of fun off camera, so we're kind of laughing at each other. You, Klepto, by the way, that's a great call sign.
Thank you much.
Recently named?
Recently named.
Recently named.
Recently
okay.
acquired.
And, you know, there's always, like I told you, the renaming ceremony, which can be painful, but
I'm hoping to keep
embrace it.
I'll
go
keep
with it. So you're with kind of a new branch, the Space Force, and they're here at the school, which is really cool. And the idea is cool at the school. See, I work with all that kind of stuff. Now,
love the rhyme.
Yeah, there you go. It's just me. So you're going to integrate, or you're thinking about integrating, or trying to, the Space Force with the test pilot school. So I want to kind of talk about that. But the first thing I want to do is, what was your motivation? How did you get started? It's always interesting to me. Like when I've been in like airplanes and military stuff since I was in knee pants. How did you get involved in this? I mean, this is like cutting edge stuff.
It absolutely is. And, you know, that was one of the big things that appealed to me as an operator on the space side of the house. So operators are responsible for actually using the satellite constellations that we all heavily rely on and getting important information to end users like the pilots that are here training and trying to go through those paces. And so as an operator, I saw the need for us rapidly acquiring new systems for testing and evaluating, weighing the risk and benefit of trying to get things to operators quickly, fielding new concepts, especially as civilian space is getting so much attention and so much traction right now. The Space Force is a new branch, but is moving very quickly. And so we are kind of operating in that really cool space where we are getting to work with program offices, we're getting to work with acquisitions, we're getting to work with operators, as well as all of the technical expertise in these new hot inventions. And so we're getting to kind of work in the intersection of all those things, just like the flight test guys do with all the new bells and whistles on their airframes.
Now, you're an Academy grad.
I am.
So Academy, and then you kind of did you step directly into this?
No, so I was an operator, so I'm stationed at Buckley Space Force Base, recently renamed as well. And so Buckley is a missile warning hub. And so we run strategic and theater missile warning for the United States. And so I was an operator there, been a staff officer there for a little bit, and kind of had a career that's been peppered with developmental and operational tests within the space side of the house without even knowing it.
Right.
So my career's taken me all over the world, you know, Asia and Europe and in the Middle East, and I've been able to see the prime need for getting things into the hands of users that we're not doing fast enough right now on the space side. And so that's why the space test course has been created in parallel with the test pilot school.
Now, to take a step back a little bit, because some folks really won't maybe grasp this side of what you're talking about, but the Air Force especially has been in both the nuclear triad, right, with nuclear weapons for a long time, early warning detection, launch detection, and that's a lot of what started with this when you talk about constellation of satellites. But you've evolved, I think, now more into battle space sensors, and you talked a little bit about the operators in theater. What I'm hearing you say is that you take a lot of this data and you matriculate it down to the either battlefield commander or somebody in the battle space. Is that what I'm gathering?
Absolutely, and that applies across many different portions of the electromagnetic spectrum, and so that's one thing that we focus on a lot as students over on the test pilot course as well, or space test school as well, is trying to understand exactly how all of this data can be used by operators, and that applies to signals intelligence, imagery collection, that applies to early warning for missile warning data. All of these really important things, any type of GPS coordination, any type of timing standards that we're using for a guided bomb or any type of targeting system, that all relies on a very robust space network. And so we're trying to keep that network as robust as possible. And you have to do that by moving fast and accepting risk.
And you touched on something I think that's really important. Weapons have evolved over time. We had ICBMs were just single bomb, single rocket, then you had MIRVs, and all that kind of stuff. We've evolved now to hypersonic weapons, directed weapons.
That's most of my job.
and I don't think, I go back in the middle 80s when I kind of got really interested in all this. Hitting a bullet with a bullet is not an easy job. And has computing power and maybe AI started to help you in your job? And where are we headed with that? In other words,
it's where everything's moving, and it's prevalent in every single field, especially in defense and especially in missile defense. And so I think that as both air and space systems move towards machine learning and more automation, there's going to be even more of a crossover between the guys that are being trained over here to fly and pull data off of aircraft systems and the guys that are being trained right across the street to do pulling data.
The technology has changed so much. My daughter, when SpaceX landed the lander for the first time, when I think my daughter said I was crying, but the reality of it was that's like science fiction.
Absolutely.
And things are changing so rapidly. You're talking about, we were talking about AI learning and all that kind of stuff. How soon before a lot of these systems are automated, and where are we to a point where a lot of these things will kind of work on their own?
We're living in a time when, the age of the internet is often correlated with an exponential increase in just a gain of crazy new technology that people wouldn't have even cooked up back in the 70s or the 80s. And so we're kind of living in the new era of that with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And when it comes to testing those systems and understanding the data that we're getting and how we can leverage those types of optimization platforms, that's something that Space Test is absolutely interested in, and something that we are trying to train operators, engineers, program office personnel. We're trying to train everybody in that sphere to be effectively in a system agnostic way, teaching a mindset of how to test things quickly, accepting risk and moving forward, and making sure that we're getting the best possible thing to an operator, to a user, to the ingesters of all this information as fast as possible in the most responsible way as possible, so that we can end up playing in that field and making sure that machine learning and all of that automation is done responsibly and done effectively, because it's where everything's moving.
We talk about Moore's Law, right, on technology doubling. I think we're past that now. I used to never pay attention to it. I was like, oh, that's a bunch of baloney.
And now you can't ignore it.
It's real. In your role, the fact that we're dealing with now hypersonics, things that are moving so much even faster than we can react to, how important is the suborbital spectrum, and the area around the globe, so to speak, in what you're doing as far as sensor gathering and stuff like that? To me, it's the high ground that everybody's trying to get to.
Absolutely. A world in which we don't have dominance in space is a world in which we'll be losing wars. And so we are being employed, as well as the guys on this side of the house, to make sure that that is a reality that we never have to come in contact with. So we are trying our best to think ahead of the problems that we expect to face when it comes to near-peer adversaries and any type of action that could be done against the systems we so heavily rely on. That is our bread and butter of what we are trying to defend, and essentially why the Space Force was stood up in the first place, and why the Space Test Course is evolving so quickly.
Well, it's great that you're here. I mean, it makes that they're actually, the thing to me, what it signifies is that they're taking this seriously. For a long time, when Reagan was talking about anti-missile defense system, it was Star Wars, and that was more of a joke.
Yep.
Right? It was actually a knock against the program. The physics of that program were really sophisticated, and that's just continued to evolve with computing power and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But it's going to be interesting. Our adversaries, and you touched on this, our adversaries are not sitting on their hands. They are moving as fast as we are, if not faster in some cases. And do you ever wave at each other, from one satellite to another?
I think in some senses maybe, but at the end of the day, we are trying to, exactly what you got out there, we're trying to keep up with threats, and we're trying to project what could be a threat in the future. And there are a lot of crazy things happening right now in many different orbital regimes. And so we're expected to be on the cutting edge and to operate on the cutting edge. And the only way you do that is through testing, verifying, and validating that your equipment and your sensors do exactly what's promised. And so that's something that we are trying to jump into that space and really lean forward into trying to hone those processes.
Okay, last question. Are you Star Wars or Star Trek girl?
I would say my brother is a Star Wars guy. I'll go Star Trek for my mom and for my dad.
More cerebral,
yeah.
you want to, exploration.
I'm not,
Makes sense.
To be honest, I'm probably not the biggest sci-fi nerd, and that doesn't represent most of the Space Force very well. So if you asked any of my compadres across the fence, they would all have very strong opinions. Very strong opinions, I'm sure.
We'll have to get and ask them all this stuff. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
And I'm going to see you on Mars.
Hopefully so. Maybe someday.
All right,
we'll
you're going
see.
to get there. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
3, 2, 1, end of test. King was a go.
Rise to the blessed day, all my fears have gone away. I guess this means I'm here to stay. Yeah, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly. Wasn't long ago I shook at the thought of being hooked. But ever since I wrote my book, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly. Come along and join us, we can plug you in the simulator. We'll teach you how to dance and be the perfect imitator. We'll give away all your music to the operator. We were born with a light to shine, and we can do it in our lifetime. And then we get the balance right. Oh, we're riding on the satellite.
Very good, Alpha.
I was walking down the park, saw them hitting the beat. The sound that emanated, it was really sweet. Told them of a shyer man bitten twice, and gave a little old school good advice. Pretending's not the thing, got to be yourself. Honesty, integrity, happiness and health. Bending to the needs of others ain't the way. Be true to yourself and let the music play.
Come along and join us, we can plug you in the simulator. We'll teach you how to dance and be the perfect